This this is far worse than what Hitler did in Germany. This is far worse than what happened in Rwanda. This is far worse than what happened in Somalia or all of those places combined. And here's the problem. This is what bothers me. We kill our children. And then we say Obamacare. When a patient is old, we should let them die with dignity. And I've seen that up close and personal. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen that personally in my family, where
Yes, you
where
did.
where antibiotics were withheld so that the person could just go ahead and die because they were 80 years old.
Yeah, I know. Mm.
And so what happens is we decide we're going to destroy our future with our children and we're going to destroy our past. And then you look at what Margaret Sanger said about blacks and Hispanics and Jews and soldiers and so and then what happens is, well, what about people who are born with a mental disorder or who are born with Down syndrome or are born with mental retardation or
Mm.
and then what about people who have a severe birth defect? Or what about people who have a stroke or who have arthritis? Or who makes that decision? Well, in the world that I've lived in up until now, God made that decision.
Yes.
But we've decided that we can make that decision. This offends me on every conceivable level. And it ought to offend you. What the world has lost in our children and in our elders that we just throw away. And if you don't think it'll affect you, you better think twice because unless something happens to you, we're going to grow older. And then our government officials are going to say, well, you've lived a long life and it's time for you to die. So suck it up, go home, and die. That's basically what
You no longer have value to society. It's your responsibility to die
and
now.
but see, that's the natural progression when you don't value
Mhm.
life. When you don't value
Mhm.
life, when we don't value the lives of our infants, then we won't value any life.
That's right.
And when Martin O'Malley said that all lives matter, he was right
Absolutely.
because all life does
Absolutely.
matter.
Yes.
And until we realize that, we will continue to argue with one another and we'll continue to have lots and lots and lots of problems. Now that's my soapbox speech for tonight. Let's move on to this next story because it it actually um, it actually is interesting to me. Several states have chosen to defund Planned Parenthood in the last few weeks since the sale of fetal body parts and bodies have been exposed. And it's been reported that the largest procurer of these parts has now canceled its contract with Planned Parenthood. But what has been the administration's response? By the way, my own state of Arkansas, the governor of that state announced this week we are not funding Planned Parenthood. By the
That's
way,
right.
states fund Planned Parenthood and the federal government funds Planned Parenthood. The federal government
Mhm.
funds Planned Parenthood to the tune of $500 million
Mm.
because and the proponents of Planned Parenthood say it's because of women's health. That's why they say that. Um,
Mhm.
and yet there are countless places where you can go to get the same thing that Planned Parenthood offers for free. The Center for Disease Control will do Pap smears for free. Wow, imagine that. Why? And yet, when you hear the left talking about how important Planned Parenthood is, that's one of the first things they go to. Without that,
Right.
there'd be lots of women that wouldn't have that available. Well, wrong. There are places that will do that. It's already provided. Pregnancy testing and contraception is cheap. You can go to Walmart and buy a month's supply of birth control pills for $6.
That's right.
So this is not when the left is saying this is about women's health. It's not. It's about pushing the agenda of abortion. And when someone like Hillary Clinton says that Margaret Sanger is my hero, then I become concerned about what is her ulterior motive.
Who is she?
Is she a racist like Margaret Sanger? This woman spoke at the KKK. This woman spoke with Nazi sympathizers.
That's right.
This woman referred to blacks and Jews and Latinos and soldiers as weeds that ought to be exterminated. I am beyond outraged. I am beyond shocked. Now, the Obama administration did respond this week to the threat, not just the threat, but the action of several states who have said we're not going to fund Planned Parenthood anymore. By
That's
the way,
right.
by the way, Planned Parenthood, who needs to be funded by the federal government according to the left, also this last year donated over $500,000 to political campaigns.
Yes, that's right. $588,619 or $918 if I remember correctly.
And Hillary Clinton got 20 times the amount of anyone else. And all of the people that received donations from Planned Parenthood were Democrats.
Every single stinking one of them.
Now listen, I'm shocked that because this sounds to me like a scheme to use taxpayer money to fund the Democratic Party. That's what it sounds like to me. We've got to fund Planned Parenthood because women's health is so vital. But at the same time, thank you, Planned Parenthood, for your donation for my Democratic campaign.
To the tune of almost $600,000.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. At the very least, that's unethical.
Right.
And at the most, it's illegal, or it should be. It should be illegal for an organization who is taking money from the government because they need it to survive and to provide the service that they provide. But evidently, part of the service that they provide is to contribute to politicians who support them. This is huge. This is not some little bitty thing. And Lisa, what was the White House's response to governors saying we're not going to fund Planned Parenthood?
Well, they are threatening consequences, serious consequences for states who have canceled those contracts. Basically, following the release of investigative, videos that expose Planned Parenthood, Alabama, Louisiana, New Hampshire, now Arkansas, have all canceled their Medicaid contracts with Planned Parenthood. Wisconsin already had done so, and there are even more plans to redirect more money out to a grant from Planned Parenthood to a women's health block grant. But in an HHS guidance document from 2011, the Obama administration said states are not allowed to exclude providers from Medicaid solely on the basis of the types of services they offer.
Hmm.
So, according to a Wall Street Journal report, should the states continue to block Medicaid funding to Planned Parenthood, they can request a hearing to settle the matter. However, should the conflict continue, CMS could cut Medicaid funds to the state. So,
So, in other
it's
words, this is another example of a power grab by the federal government saying, we don't care what the states decide. You're going to do things our way or you're going to pay.
well, yes, but now there is a loophole here because the HHS guidance, however, also says the states can exclude providers from Medicaid funding if their engagement in certain criminal acts is proven. So, a provision that many believe is the case with the videos of Planned Parenthood's top medical personnel discussing the sale of aborted baby organs for Lamborghinis. It hasn't actually been tried before, though. So Casey Maddox, a senior legal counsel at Alliance Defending Freedom, said Planned Parenthood has contracts with states that can be terminated for cause. It's just a question of whether or not they were terminated for cause. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out and whether it'll have to go through the court system or not.
Well, here's what I would do if I were the governor of one of those states. I would watch this case in Florida with this immigrant that is being charged with 4 murders.
Mm-hmm.
And if he is in fact convicted of killing the infant, then I would say, as a governor, look, there's already legal precedence to what happens. You can be charged with murder for killing a child that has not been born.
Oh, but that kind of precedent has already been set in several states.
You're right. You're probably in every state. Probably in every state. So they should dig up those precedents and say, look, we've got the law and precedent on our side.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, let me tell you something. This is another example of the government who thinks they are the government to the people.
Right.
Instead of a government by, for, and of the people. Now, we have got to focus on that. We've got to focus on that. And if we don't, then God help us.
Literally.
God help us. Well, I'll tell you, we're winding down here. We're about 2.5 minutes away. I don't even think we have time for our good news story. I would want to remind you of a couple of things. I'll just remind you of this. Pay attention, folks. There's a lot of talk about low information voters. And those are the people that just listen to the sound bites on the news and form their conclusions from that. You need to dig deeper. Over this last week, as we've been digging into what we've been doing for this story, I made the comment to Lisa today, this is like peeling a nuclear onion. With every layer you get into this, it gets worse and worse and worse until it explodes in your face. And so what I would encourage you to do is to do what we've been doing, to get on the internet, to talk to your congressman, to start doing the research and finding out what's going on beyond the sound bites.
And don't just go to websites that you normally go to. Go to different websites. Go to Reuters, go to AP, go to Politico, go to places where you normally wouldn't go and look things up.
That is exactly what we do. Now, Lisa and I are both conservatives, but we don't exclusively use Fox News or Breitbart. In fact, rarely do we use them. We use lots of other sources, mainstream sources, where they're saying the information that you need to have. And by the way, while you're at it, let me remind you, listen to our shows. Go back and look at our archives. We've got a lot of great shows in our archives at Spreaker.com. Go back and listen to some of those shows. We do a lot of research and a lot of digging. Join us on Twitter at DELOACH Approach. That's all you have to type in. Go to our Facebook page, the DELOACH Approach. Just go to our Facebook page and like it. We had 100 people almost this week that liked our page. Come join us and listen to what we have to say. Well, that's it for tonight. We want to thank you so much for joining us and being a